With all the violence that is taking place against different groups, and specifically and recently the increased violence against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, the question that keeps being asked is how and when do these actions happen? And we talk about society and we talk about standing unified in order to stop these kinds of acts of violence, but a lot of those acts of violence take place in a broad daylight and they take place amongst other people being present. And where have we arrived as a society and as a world where interference and stopping brutal actions against older people is become normalized, and instead our response is pulling out our phones and recording because we're afraid of either personal liability and or simply being able to get involved in an issue that is problematic. How did we arrive to a position where we are okay with looking at acts of violence being done against another fellow human being, and decided that it's okay for us to sidestep it, or the best involvement or the most involvement that we can do is to call the police? This notion of detaching ourselves from our responsibilities and not acting upon it is scary. I mean, what is it? Are we bad people? Did we lose the compass, the morality, or the issue that we need to be able to do in order to understand that if you see some jackass hitting a 70 years old man or a woman or a child, your job is to come in and stop them. And it doesn't really matter whether you actually effectively will be able to stop them or not. The right thing is do it. And if we all do it, then maybe those jackasses would not be able to do what they're doing. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about Tusi. Now, that name might not be familiar to most people, but I think about Nasir al-Din al-Tusi quite a bit. Like, he's great, right? Like, he's a physician, he's an astronomer, he's a mathematician. He's done a lot of things in the 12th century. He's just incredible, brilliant person. So he's got this position. He says that we don't necessarily have any problems with what the problems that we have in the society and in the world is because we deny ourselves logic. In other words, we force upon ourselves this decision making that leads to those choices. And he's got a couple of examples, and those examples are very translatable from 12th century Persia to 21st century United States. So, for example, first argument is excess, right? Like, think about it. Everybody goes on computer and types up about the investment, and we read comments such as like this: thank you so much for GME, or thank you so much for Dodge. I just bought 40,000 shares, right? And now I'm a millionaire. And then I'm thinking about it. Okay, so GME, for argument's sake, it's like you bought 40,000 shares, and you bought 40,000 shares at $70 a pop. Like, I don't know, my math is really bad at it. I'm very bad at math. But like 4 times 7, that's 40 times. This is an incredible amount of money. Like, you've just put $280,000, and now that you're going to be able to make $1 million, you're claiming that you became a millionaire. I'm sorry, but how detached from reality are you that if you have available $280,000 or whatever happens to be the case, your reality is definitively not the same as everybody else's who live within this world? Or even more problematic, when we think about the excess, I don't know if any of you remember that my Super Sweet 16 show about this annoying little children who were crying about how their life is over because the Range Rover was of wrong color. And we as a society said, you know what, this is kind of problematic, right? Like, we shouldn't be showing that because, like, I don't know about you all, but I can't buy my kid a Range Rover. And then what do we do, right? Like, are we denying that show, and we say we learned from it? We probably shouldn't be showing those things as normative. No, instead what we do is we translate and we make Beverly Hills of housewife, right? Like, so now we, instead of talking about Range Rovers, we're talking about like multi-million dollar real estate properties and or like I don't know, couple of $100,000 vacation packages, which again forces the rest of us to sit and look and say, well, you have a choice. You can choose not to engage in it. And this is where the problem is, and that's where Tusi is great, because he talks about specifically perversion of reason. And you know what the perversion of reason is when you utilize your knowledge in order to take advantage of the people in front of you. In other words, right, it's a very simple characteristic. You show people what you know that they would want without them knowing how harmful it is for you. In other words, all of a sudden we have a cosmetic brand that burns your skin, but all of a sudden, because it is attached to the fancy name or, it's utilized. And you know what the funny thing is? Everybody's just all of a sudden became, Renaissance person. And Tusi was a Renaissance person, but even Tusi would not claim that. He took him lifetime of studying, but all of a sudden everybody who's like 19 or 20 or 25-year-old is simultaneously knows chemistry, simultaneously knows biology, simultaneously knows everything there is one needs to know in order to be able to launch makeup line. I mean, I'm sorry, like that's just sort of hard to believe. And you know, Tusi's answer to that is that it derives from two particular places: simple ignorance and then compound ignorance. Like the simple ignorance, in order to understand it, it's just a mistake that we all do, right? Like we don't know what we're supposed to do, we're exposed to it, we make a bad set of choices. Once we make that bad set of choices, we don't double down on it. We learn from it and we move away. When we don't, then we actually act and put ourselves into the world of compound ignorance. And that compound ignorance is what allows us to put us into a position of denying everything and everyone simply because we feel that we need to be in defensive. No, this is a good idea. I am going to be paying X amount of dollars for a stock market, which is going to be leading to I'm mad at the system. Well, I'm sorry, right? Like it's just kind of realization that if you are you're angry at those who are able to use their monies in an effective way, and you're saying, well, they're cheating or they're lying or they're bad, and or we are afraid to be able to say, look, emperor has no clothes on. Look, young lady, why don't you go become a chemist? Go do 5 years of, I don't know, beauty school, and then maybe I will listen to you, rather than listening to you because, I'm listening to you because other people listen to you. And, or, sir, I'm sorry, what are your qualifications? Well, my qualifications are many. And I can design sneakers and I can also paint Sistine Chapel. Well, once you paint the Sistine Chapel, then maybe I can speak and acknowledge your ability to design shoes. And the problem is fear. And all of it comes to this notion of fear of missing out. I think once you let fearing of missing out impact you, you already missed out.